Christmas Day football game in the NFL came at Lambeau Field. The Green Bay Packers and the Cleveland Browns. The Packers ended up surviving the Cleveland Browns 24-22. They squeaked by on Christmas by 2 points. So here's the thing about football, and this is why it perfectly encapsulates this team and this game. Football is a brutal sport, right? Every team's battling through injuries. Every player is battling through nicks and knacks. No one is healthy at this time of the year. It's just impossible because of the stress of the season, how much of just a kind of a trough it can be at times. And every team is having to endure different things. Every team's got stuff going on. Are we impressed? Do we commend players that gut it out when they're injured? Sure. Of course we do. But that's part of the reason why they get paid millions of dollars, is because we expect them to play through injuries. If they were getting paid the minimum wage, well, then we wouldn't have these high expectations, right? In theory, that's the idea. So Baker Mayfield, we know that he's injured. He's not just hurt, he's injured. He's wearing a harness around his shoulder. He can't torque his body to the left. He's battling through. But he threw 4 picks on Saturday against the Packers. Now, the only one I'll defend for him is the last pick that he threw should have been defensive pass interference, defensive PI. Outside of that, the first 2, if not the first 3, were all self-induced. And the problem is, I understand that he's injured and understand that he's trying to gut this out for his team. But you just simply can't afford to make those types of erroneous plays at this stage in the season when the games are of such importance. Games of this magnitude, this is a guy who's been around for a couple years. And again, I understand that he's injured, not just hurt, he's injured. But those are the types of mental mistakes that you make when you're a rookie, when you're a second-year player, not when you're in your 4th year or even 5th year in the league. And the problem is that 21 of the 24 points that the Green Bay Packers scored on Saturday came directly after the first 3 interceptions thrown by Baker Mayfield. So you're gifting them 21 points. Now, granted, only 2 of the 3 picks were in the Green Bay half of the field, so you left yourself points on the board. But here's the thing. The Browns honestly looked like the better team against the Green Bay Packers. If you're watching that game, you're saying to yourself, wow, the Browns defense is playing exceptionally well. And the thing about the Browns is they have a recipe that's conducive for success. It's running the football. They are a run-first team. And that first drive of the game was arguably the most successful drive that they've had all season. It was the best-looking drive that they've had all season. You had Nick Chubb involved in 3 of the first 5 plays of the first drive, including a 40-yard little drop-down pass to him, a short check from Mayfield to him. And Nick Chubb was unstoppable on Saturday. 17 carries, 126 yards. He was averaging 7.4 yards per carry. Then he had 3 catches for 58 yards. So he was averaging 9. Well, I don't know the averages per reception. I guess I would say about 19 to 20, about 19 and a half yards per touch when it came to catches. But then he had 9.2 average yards per touch. So whether he's running the ball or catching the ball, he's averaging almost a first down per touch. That's your answer. That's your recipe for success right there. And what was surprising to me was, despite having all that success with the run game, they deviated from it so early. They just kind of turned a cold shoulder and just opted to not run the football until late in the game, when, for whatever reason, it clicked in their head, oh, you know what, let's start handing it back off to him. That part was perplexing to me because of the early success that they had. Despite that strong efficacy rate, they just decided to pivot from that game plan. And unfortunately, that's what contributed to the Packers being able to then kind of step on the gas a bit and pull away midway through the first quarter and even into the second half. Was Browns turned away, or they refused to run the football enough. Packers defense created turnovers, and they understand who they are. Browns didn't, unfortunately, until late in the game. Not to mention, it was ominous from the start when you have a first-year rookie kicker, Chris Snagger, miss an extra point on the first drive of the game. So already, it was an inauspicious start for the Browns because they were constantly behind the eight ball. They were constantly fighting this uphill battle on the road, which is what forced them to have to go for two early on in the game, which is ultimately what led to them losing by 2 points because they couldn't kick a field goal or just score a touchdown and score an extra point to tie it up. They were constantly having to earn back points that they lost off a little chip shot early in the game. And so the problem is, by the time, again, the Browns turned to the run game late in the game, like they did to start the game, and it did buffer their position, and it did set them up for a potential game-winning drive and a game-winning field goal opportunity, everything was too late. Everything was too late, and then obviously I defended Baker on that last interception that should have been defensive PI, but again, that shouldn't be the position that you're in. If they take care of the football earlier in the game and they trust the run from start to finish, they come out of Lambeau victorious. And that's the problem. So it's a shame because the Browns honestly had a great game plan and they could have gone back to Cleveland a happy camper on the holidays, but instead it goes to the Packers. And you have to credit the Green Bay Packers because at the end of the day, they're doing what good teams do, which is simply finding ways to win. They're finding ways to win. It's not always pretty. It's ugly in this instance, but they're coming away victorious, and their defense is stepping up. Big time, Rashawn Gary, 2 sacks. They had 5 sacks as a team. Rasul Douglas has been one of the best midseason acquisitions for the Packers. In 10 games played for the Green Bay Packers, Rasul Douglas has 5 picks, 2 touchdowns, and a forced fumble in 10 games played. So he's had a tremendous impact, but again, just a gutsy win by the Packers. And obviously the connection with or between Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams is second to none. Again, they're on a separate wavelength, but it's impressive what they were able to do, despite the fact that, honestly, the Browns looked like the better team. They had the better game plan. They just didn't trust the run enough. And the Packers kind of pilfered a win from them on Christmas.